Hello, 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 y'all. I am fortunate enough to be here with an international guest. He is actually the TEDx Geneva, Switzerland organizer. Theo, who are you and what the heck are you doing here today?
Hello, Ryan. Well, who am I? Shall I know myself enough to know the universe? You're starting with a very philosophical question, and somehow philosophy is one of my uh, main inspiration in how I should describe myself. So I was actually, to resume, born and raised in a philosopher's family, and yeah, TEDx Geneva. Actually, you use the word organizer. It's not wrong, but it's a team. It's a beautiful team, great people. And I started in 2013 alone, but now it's a team. And when you're asking about organizers, there is this very horizontal organization we're in. But formally, my title, which I don't use much, but since we are in an official discovery, my title gives some kind of a reason to be. Like as entrepreneurs, we are always searching for a reason to be. And it's called licensee, which means I got a license, which I take seriously because it means there is a deal, and it's a beautiful deal actually. And I studied the deal, and we can speak about this. It's a nice topic. I studied the deal before I signed, and now it's probably the 19th event we did, and we are up to the 20th if I am counting well. And
And that's
so yeah.
that's one thing that I think really makes you stick out there is you've organized or you've built a team that together you've
Yeah,
organized. This is possibly your 20th one you guys are doing together. What keeps you coming
yeah,
back? It's been 20 TEDx events so far.
yeah. About I was just saying that my official title is curator and licensee, and these two keywords bring some meaning. Like licensee, it's a deal, and curator, it's a mission. And this is when it comes to inspiring people when they have something they want to pass a message. This curation activity.
Hmm. And of these 20 events you've curated, what keeps you coming back? It's a lot of work. You don't get paid for it. Is there something about it that fulfills you, or what keeps you coming back for more?
To be simple and direct, the chance of having incubated such a beautiful team that sometimes I can really offer myself the incredible luxury of just coming to. It happens quite a few times at United Nations actually, where I had the chance to celebrate the incredible team organizing this and just coming on stage and thanking everybody while not having spent so much time, just maybe 20 times half an hour or 50 times 15 minutes, but not more. I mean, it's about 1 2 days of work now for me per year, because the team is operationally beautiful and functioning. But this year I did a bit more. I read a lot of books and I took notes. I take notes in a certain way, and then I invite the writers to, because
Hmm.
again it's about resuming, and resuming is such a big, the incredible story about resuming. It's such a big challenge. Scientists say often, if you want to write a book, you take a year, and if you want to resume it in 20 pages, you take 3 more or 5 more, like resuming. It's such a challenge.
Hmm. And of these 20 or 19 TEDx events so far that you've organized, what is something that seems to be unknown to speakers when you first accept them, that you and your team have to provide the clarity to when they are selected?
I'm not sure I'm getting your question. Can you
Sure.
specify?
Yeah, of course. So imagine you select me to speak at TEDx Geneva this coming November. You say, Okay, awesome, Ryan, you're selected. Okay, cool. What happens to me now? What process do I go through to get me ready for the TEDx Geneva stage?
Well, we have like a checklist, and then we have informal and formal compliance. Like sometimes we see that, for instance, the person has a good way to physically behave and be physically present, but that the tone of the voice must be worked, or the ID, or the way the person will start rehearsing. Like some people, they write texts and then they memorize it and then they try to live it, but sometimes it's better not to do this, or sometimes it's better. So we have our checklist, and it's not, it's, there are too many parameters to be really like fully clear. Like there are always some kind of a missing stuff, or many missing stuff at the end, but it's hard to really see during the way which we should start with. So we just compose with you. We just make sure that you grow on your, on the maturity of your talk. And of course we insist for rehearsing, just like focus on rehearsing again and again. Yeah.
And how do you and your team select the speakers you guys have at TEDx Geneva?
Well, in the license that we sign, there are some, first of all, criterias like no goes and basics, and one of them is diversity. So sometimes people are chosen not just because of the quality of the project, but because they are representing some kind of a gender of aspect. Like for instance, sometimes we don't have enough about medicine. Like for instance, all the themes are very generic, broad. Like the next one is be intelligent. You couldn't do something sorry, especially on technique. So if you want to select, you have to combine. So this is the creation work. So we have always an open call, for sure, where anybody can apply with a 3 minutes video. That's one of the classical way to organize a TED talk. TEDx independent organized TED talk. And then of course we select we select part of them by going and calling actively. So we have, like, for instance, per year between 50 and 120 150 candidates. We select 5 to 8, sometimes even 10, and then at the end we have maybe 15 or 17 with whom we've started rehearsing, because we include also people that we bring, which are not candidates. They are people selected by us. And we combine with some kind of a balance between all the aspects, as I said, gender, theme, like a bit of science, of entertainment, of art, of philosophy, of design, of technology. And we combine all these aspects. And also the messages, we always watch out that people don't bring an idea that already has been largely let's say disclosed, proposed on TED portal. So we search for existing material, state of the art. We do a lot of state of the art background research, like scientific one. Of course, we anticipate all the classical mistakes and errors, like, well, bad science, self-promotion, promotion of products. We anticipate all the classical risks of people, for instance, saying, trust me, I'll do it immediately, improvised. It can happen, but it's interesting to see that when people feel like they've succeeded, that's a very good one, maybe. When people feel they've succeeded to improvise very good, if they're filmed themselves and they watch again, they ask, oh no, I said this, I can't believe, oh, I looked so self-confident, but by the way, what was I saying? Really? And this really happens, it's a true experience. Many people like this, they think they did it better, and we had some nice failure. I would just like to make a parenthesis. You may know the fucked up nights. The fucked up nights. No? Well, I think that the TED and TEDx spirit has make emulation, has incubated alternative formats. And one of them is some sharing nights with open forum and stuff. And one other, it's the fucked up nights. It's just about mistakes. And we learn a lot from our mistakes. So actually, the first event we did was really a miracle. This one is a nice one, I should tell, the first one. But if we have 3 minutes, I tell you this. But maybe you have other questions first.
You can share the first story. I think it especially entrepreneurs out there and speakers know the first is the worst normally, and then once you get that one out of the way, it's just about improving and bettering each time, right? So feel free to share the story.
Well, we had an organizing since 2004 another type of event called e-culture forum dedicated to all types of behaviors in digital environment and how digital environment influence. So we were already in the trend. So we had all our speakers. So we had a bunch of existing experience, and we were just bringing this to TED. Actually, it was a gift at the beginning with incredible people, and we had our newly vice president, who was the first woman chairing the Wikimedia Foundation, which is the only non-profit in the top 10 most visited websites. And we had one of the incredible founder of the Silicon Valley in the 70s, one of the TCP/IP principal, and all these guys, they were gathered in a fucking squat. Sorry for the bad word, but it was great. And it was a house. Actually, now the guys are retiring, so I can finally reveal. It was a house owned by the state inside university to be demolished, abandoned, without any hygiene, toilets, and with so much dust, metal dust. It was terrible. We got all these students, volunteers working in weekends and cleaning everything, and we got all these huge T-suit protection. I don't know, like in the theater in black. I don't know the word. Sorry. And like it was falling down. You see that some stuff falling down during the. And all these speakers, we did not rehearse enough with them. They arrived the day before. And actually, we had rehearsing, but it was like so much joy and passion, and 170 people with some. We did actually the grand slam of ecology. Like we really succeeded to have an abandoned house with recycled food served in a renewable material, like recyclable material, with mostly donation. People from the entire world, guy coming from Silicon Valley, from Wikimedia, from incredible ideas, an incredible musician in between, and a final picnic in a park with groups of 4. It was wow. And it was totally chaotic. Then it became more calm and sweet. But as usual, out of the box wins in our heart.
And it sounds like the
I
memory
wish
you will
everybody
always
lives
have
this
that.
type of TED Talk, because when we launched TED Talk, TEDx Geneva, and any TEDx, we have a mandate to project a 3 minutes welcome video from TED organizer, Chris Anderson, who, by the way, made a very good book I really recommend about how to pitch an idea and how to develop a TED-like talk. And actually, it was really a good memory, because we were really somehow exploring the tension, like putting ourselves into jeopardy, into risk, and we touched really some more deep emotion. We really revealed ourselves. It was really a moment of grace, of truth. And sometimes for speakers listening, I guess it's the best. It's really to reach this graceful moment of letting ourselves flow in the truth, in being ourselves, being vulnerable, being authentic, by having so much worked on your talk that you don't care about it anymore. You just let it flow because you've paid the price. You've paid the price. You've learned. You've mistaken. You've cried. You've abandoned, and you've taken back. And it's really like this, a good talk. But of course, you can improvise a bit.
And is your event in English or French or both?
Bilingual.
Between those two languages?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And when you said there's an open call for speakers,
it's for the international Geneva. Like we have an international Geneva made of United Nations officers and all the NGO international movements. And aside, of course, we have the local culture university and of course entrepreneurs who are not always so much into English. Like we learn German at school, some speak Spanish, but not always English.
That's really cool. So it's one of the only multilingual TEDx events in the entire world. That is cool.
I don't know. I guess there are many.
Okay. And so if it's international, anybody that has an idea we're spreading can apply to speak at TEDx Geneva if they can come to travel.
Of course. Sometimes we organize even the travel if the situation is. We usually cover costs like travel and transportation and yeah.
Very cool. And what you mentioned how. So at what point? How many?
Hosted in our eco village. It's nice. Our headquarters is in an eco village in Switzerland, so it's like
cool.
Nature. There is a workspace. There is a community with a cafeteria, and it's an incubator of micro startups, micro enterprises. So it's very nice place.
Very cool. Yeah. And is that for the speaker that's coming from outside of Switzerland or outside of Geneva to stay when you guys select their idea?
Yeah, we receive them. We rehearse. We have a rehearsal place, and we really have a stage, and people give feedback. It's like usually it's one speaker rehearsing for 3 people giving feedback. So it's
okay. And you mentioned to me earlier that your event is in November. Right now, when we're recording this, it's June. How many months prior to your event do you normally look for speakers or have open application?
6 months. We just launched it this week.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So when I do a promo post about this episode, I'll put it on the Instagram story or something. I'll put a link to your TEDx event.
Yeah. Actually, we mentioned the theme of August or September. Then we really start rehearsing 3 months before, and we also select the people we want to invite. I already selected them. I started in December selecting them, and now I have all my invitee.
And how does that look like for the people you hand select? How do you normally go about qualifying those individuals and their ideas?
Actually, it's knowing that they already have most of the needed skills, which are ability to manage complexity, stress, life stage, promoting an idea, succeeding in convincing people. And then we just focus on avoiding that they share ideas that are already largely spread on TED, and that they really bring something fresh and innovative and disruptive and worth spreading, which is the slogan.
And as absolutely. And as a curator, how do you and your team confirm if the idea they're applying with has already been spoken about? Do you search it or like manually look through each TEDx talk?
And sometimes we even have to say no to stars. Like there are some great people who, I wouldn't name any, but there are some great people who are famous, who are successful, who are incredibly nice and tender with us, and we have a good connection, but we have to say no, because this is not worth spreading due to lack of originality. And the person thinks it's original, and we have to be honest, and we have to encourage the person to work on it, and the person doesn't have more time, and it just vanishes. But it doesn't mean it's bad. It means it's fair.
Right.
It's a fair selection process. And many people think that you can have some easy access because you know somebody. Actually, the only thing you can get, and this is a tip for any, is to insist a bit to get more possibility to update the ID. But if a good speaker is selected, it's also because maybe he did his homework and he browsed the TEDosphere and got the good message worth spreading, the good ID positioned in an innovative way.
Hmm. And of those 150 applicants normally that you get, that you select the 5 to 8 of, what percent of those applicants are turned down just because the idea is so common already? Like, oh, the sky is blue. You're like, duh, we don't need to put you on a
It's a
stage. We looked up and
combination.
we know it.
There are other reasons which are combined with this. For instance, sometimes people are simply too much self-confidence, overselling, or the contrary, underconfident. They show stress immediately, or their ID looks really common and they present it the way as it's totally new. They go from one ID to the other and they think there is just one, and we see they are still lost in their construction, etc. Before we finish, it's 23 minutes, but before we finish, I have some practical experience that I will make with you if you want.
Please share. Absolutely. Yeah. I think go ahead and share it. I think that's one kind of the knowledge you have after organizing almost 20 TEDx events and seeing hundreds of TEDx speakers and knowing what makes a good TEDx talk. That's what you're here to share, right? Because that's knowledge that not a lot of people have. So please share.
So in French, we have an expression called tirade. It means making some kind of a listing, and usually it's about ways to do things or about synonyms somehow, and about like a diversity of options. And so when we are speaking about TED and about the spirit, about the way to share ideas, we always bring like focus on the title, for instance. This is one. Another one is about the deep questions, focus on the developing the title and sticking to the title. That's a very key issue. There is another one which is define a structure. Like, for instance, we use, I have somehow developed something I've seen somehow, but I haven't seen it really formalized the way I try to formalize. It's called milestone method. It's like you define just like every 30 seconds, you have to have one keyword just to remind you to stay focused and to stay on your story. And then you build everything on these keywords. Like you improvise, but every 30 seconds, you have one sentence, one key ID that you have to stay focused on. And the pop, 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 pop. And so you have your milestones and pop, your story is done. And to be honest, I haven't written many, but neither so rarely. I think I wrote more or less 20 to 30 of the 200 scenarios. So it's not so, it's 10, 50%. Like people they come with their ideas and I write the scenario for them. I do it for incredible ones or very modest ones. Sometimes we have like hundreds of thousands of views, which is good. We are selected by TED. And it's also because people bring like an accounting tickets, like you bring it to the accountant and say, do my accounting. It's the same for a TED Talk. Like you have some rules and you have, okay, first we pitch the idea and then puff, we do the emotional part, or no, first we remember to the people the environment, like where we are locating the idea we're spreading. Like we activate their memories of what they know, and this is also a key issue. We bring them from what they know to what they don't know. So we start with what they know. We colonize their imagination. And all these things are useful. But since we make about 30 minutes and I don't want to finish with this. I will give you one that I think is higher than the others. And this is something I saw recently. I don't think it's the first time that this method has been done, but it's quite a new one, and it's funny. It's Wolfpack, Wolfpack, the musicians, the musical group. They are it's a band, Wolfpack. I don't know, maybe it's pronounced differently. I'm a French.
With that pronunciation.
Okay. Well, it's a like jazz soul band, and they are making good music. And there is this guy, and in one of his show he said something so incredible. He said, the only thing you're gonna remember yourself about this story is what I'm about to do now. And I'm really sorry about this. I'm really sorry for me. I'm really sorry for you guys. But I know that the only thing you will remember about this show is what I'm gonna do now. And I'm gonna be doing something where I don't have a lot of respect for myself somehow, because I will not be with high esteem. I will just allow myself to do something very simple like this, and I will go like this, and I will stay like this, and and so we've been speaking about very important things, but the only thing you will remember is this moment. And so this is the guy who did this. So you have to find your stuff, like on my TED Talk, I changed my clothes. During the talk. I said, okay, but this made me another man. And you can search for my talk when I was invited in another place, and I did a TEDx talk, I think like 10 years ago. And I changed my clothes. So some people, there is a guy, he got 400,000 in French, actually. And I did the scenario, but what he brought was so much more important. And the topic is very funny. It's very funny for you guys from California, actually. The topic is, the exact title is, why keeping your old car is a lot more ecological than buying a new green electric one. And he has this little trick. He says all the time, he says, you're getting spammed. And he just and he said, you're getting spammed. And he continues the story, etc. And so when you bring your little touch and it drives you all along the way, that's the way. So this is what Wolfpack did, and this is what you will remember. Like, he was just doing like this, and he was saying, and it was really like hectic. It was not serious. And unfortunately, that's the type of thing people remember in your talk. Like, there is another one that I think is very interesting on the issue. It's a man who, in 3 minutes, he tells you that you don't know how to tie your shoes. And the guy is like one of the most influent think tank director. But what he tells you, it's about tightening your shoes. And he explains you don't know how to do it, and he explains in 3 minutes. So sometimes things like this you remember more, and then you can bring the idea, etc. But people, they will remember this type of thing.
It's a very good point. And for the way you guys choose, and I've learned this from talking to a few TEDx organizers so far, is there's normally different niche specific ideas that an organizer will have for their upcoming event. For example, you say, I want one person to talk about finance, one person to talk about mindset, one person to talk about health and wellness, one person to talk about this.
Yeah.
What does that framework look like for TEDx Geneva, and how do you guys choose the demographics of the ideas that you want to bring on your stage for whatever year it is?
We let it come, and sometimes we have to make hard choices. Like, we have two great speakers, but with an idea or an intention very close by one another. So sometimes we have just to select. And at the contrary, this is missing. Let's try to find it. Like in September, 3 months before, we start to search energetically. And sometimes we find some people like 15 days before, or some people resign during the way because it's too much rehearsal, or because they are not progressing, or both. Yeah.
And I got two more questions for you here because I know we're tight on time here. What would you say is one tip you have from all your experience, both giving a TEDx talk, speaking professionally, and organizing and curating and being the licensee holder for TEDx Geneva for almost 20 different TEDx events now? One piece of advice or guidance you have for the aspiring speaker, the professional speaker, or the entrepreneur that speaks to grow their business?
Build around one very simple, strong experience, not from an idea, but from an experience you've had. And around the experience, you bring the idea, but what counts is the experience.
And the anecdotal experience is enough evidence to prove the idea we're spreading.
The best is that the experience has a final firework, which is called the demonstration, the proof of concept, the results, and you can just like, and I felt this, and we did that, and finally we had this, and wow, you really did it. So it's not just an idea. Wow. So
And let's say people are listening here and they're getting so much value from what you're sharing, and they're thinking, man, I wish I could follow Théo somewhere on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, whatever social is your go-to. Where can they follow you on the internet?
I guess.
LinkedIn. Yeah. Okay. Parfait. Well, if there's not anything else you want to mention here, I think we're good here to wrap it up. Guys, if you have a friend that you're listening that you think, man, they've always thought of giving a TEDx talk, but they thought you could only do it in the US or you could only do it in a certain place. Like Théo just said, TEDx Geneva is open to anybody around the entire world with the idea we're spreading. So send this over to them, and that way they can get to know Théo before sending their application over. Théo, thank you for taking the time to do this. And guys, we will wrap it up here. Thank you. Cheers, guys.